对 ，1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4，可以吗？1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4。1 2 3 4 1 2。Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all again. Just to, as ever, remind those, we had an incident where someone didn't have their translation a couple of days ago, so always good to have your translation ready, because we will go to Italian. Just to say quickly, 9 gold medals today, 10 disciplines, a couple of broadcasting figures. Italy's most successful Winter Games day ever on Rai, 3 million in a day, which is good for them. And on our social media handles, we're averaging about 300 million, so a third of a billion daily engagements, which is not to be sniffed at. I'm going to hand over to Luca Casassa because we're going to do a very short, we're going to take all of your questions in a minute, a very short presentation on the Olympic Village, food and beverage and services. So over to you, Luca.
Grazie Marco, buongiorno a tutti, benvenuti, quarto Daily Press Briefing. Anche da parte mia il benvenuto e il ringraziamento come di consueto. Ieri come comitato organizzatore sono stati venduti 56.000 biglietti su 9 discipline, 9 venue di gara coinvolte, con 20 gare disputate, 5 medaglie d'oro assegnate. In modo particolare i complimenti vanno all'Olanda che ha conquistato la medaglia d'oro con Jutta Leerdam nel pattinaggio di velocità con il nuovo record olimpico. Approfitto di questo spazio per darvi un chiarimento sul tema medaglie che, come sapete, ha destato ovviamente il vostro interesse. Una piccola precisazione sulle problematiche che hanno interessato un numero limitato di medaglie. Come sapete il comitato organizzatore ha immediatamente approfondito la questione, operando in stretto coordinamento con la zecca dello Stato italiano, responsabile della produzione delle medaglie. È stata individuata una soluzione ed è stato implementato un intervento mirato. Gli atleti le cui medaglie risultassero interessate sono invitati a riconsegnarle attraverso i canali appropriati affinché possano essere tempestivamente riparate e restituite. Milano-Cortina 2026 conferma il proprio impegno a garantire che le medaglie, simbolo del traguardo più alto nel percorso di ogni atleta, rispondano ai più elevati standard di qualità e di attenzione. Nota di carattere tecnico-organizzativo: il presidente della Fondazione Milano-Cortina 2026, Giovanni Malagò, oggi sarà tra Tesero e Cortina a seguire ovviamente le gare. Venendo al tema di oggi, è un piacere dare il benvenuto e presentarvi Elisabetta Salvadori, che è l'Head of Food and Beverage, a cui lascio la parola. Grazie.
Grazie Luca, buongiorno a tutti, grazie di essere qui. Innanzitutto mi fa estremamente piacere iniziare con una premessa di ringraziamento per tutti i nostri partner, tra cui Coca-Cola Company, che ricordo essere il partner più longevo perché dal 1928 sostiene il movimento olimpico, poi Menghiu, Corona Zero e S. Lunga. La proposta enogastronomica di Milano-Cortina è concepita per valorizzare i sapori e le eccellenze della enogastronomia italiana, che come sappiamo è estremamente varia, e questo è chiaramente un valore a cui teniamo molto e di cui siamo estremamente orgogliosi, e che quindi proprio per la sua differenziazione abbiamo cercato di valorizzare nella nostra proposta, promuovendo anche alcuni prodotti locali supportati dai nostri sponsor come Grana Padano, come il Prosecco DOC, e ovviamente facendo in modo che alcuni di questi prodotti siano veramente parte integrante della nostra offerta. Penso per esempio alla Bresaola in Valtellina, mentre in Alto Adige avremo i Canederli, il tutto grazie appunto al supporto dei nostri partner come IDM Alto Adige, Trentino e Valtellina Taste of Emotion. Per gli atleti il concetto su cui abbiamo costruito il nostro lavoro è quello del food for fuel, cioè garantire che gli atleti possano ricevere tutte le componenti energetiche e nutrizionali di cui hanno bisogno per supportare al meglio la loro performance atletica. Ovviamente nella costruzione del menù siamo stati supportati, abbiamo seguito le linee guida del CIO, però offrendo comunque una varietà che potesse soddisfare tutto quello che sono le sensibilità culturali e religiose di tutti i paesi che fanno parte delle nostre delegazioni. Le delegazioni alloggiano in 3 villaggi principali, Milano, Cortina e Predazzo, ma c'è poi una, diciamo, costellazione di hotel che sono ben 11, suddivisi in altri 3 cluster che sono Bormio, Livigno e Anterselva. Ovviamente anche per gli hotel si è lavorato con un impianto di menù che si appoggia alle stesse linee guida e che ci permetta di avere lo stesso livello di qualità ma anche di consistenza attraverso tutte queste varie possibilità di alloggio, proprio per garantire che agli atleti possono avere lo stesso livello qualitativo di offerta e di servizio. Il pasto per regolamento olimpico nei villaggi viene servito, cioè, o meglio, il cibo è disponibile 24 ore su 24, ci sono ovviamente delle finestre per i 3 pasti principali, finestre molto prolungate, e questo soprattutto per il villaggio di Milano significa in realtà lo sforzo di far felici i giocatori, per esempio di hockey, che sono probabilmente quelli che mangiano di più e anche più frequentemente, quindi ci siamo depurati proprio per questo. Lo stile italiano ovviamente caratterizza almeno l'area dei carboidrati, che come sapete sono un componente fondamentale nella nutrizione degli atleti, e quindi in questo senso pasta e pizza la fanno ovviamente da padrone, sembra una buona soddisfazione degli atleti, ma poi ovviamente anche nelle proteine abbiamo i salumi piuttosto che i formaggi locali di cui parlavo anche prima. Vi do qualche flash di numeri o di fun facts, diciamo così. Il ristorante del Villaggio Olimpico di Milano accoglie circa 600 persone sedute, mentre Cortina e Predazzo 400 ciascuno. In ciascuno di questi, nelle cucine di ciascuno di questi villaggi lavorano mediamente 6 cuochi, diciamo ovviamente a rotazione tra cuoche e capicuoche, e ognuno di questi ci aiuta nella nostra missione, cioè preparare per Milano circa 4.500 tra colazioni, pranzo e cena, 4.000 per Cortina circa, e un po' meno, circa 3.000 per 2.000 e qualcosa per Predazzo. Come avviene questa somministrazione di cibo? Ci sono diverse aree, stazioni che appunto in qualche modo erogano un po' i pillar, diciamo, dell'offerta. Quindi, come dicevo prima, c'è la stazione pasta e pizza, poi c'è la stazione delle proteine calde, diciamo, una stazione di cibi più internazionale e un'area dedicata a quelle che sono le esigenze particolari, oltre a tutte le stazioni fredde dove in realtà ci sono appunto prodotti, formaggi e altre fonti di proteine. Abbiamo pensato a un modo per visualizzare tutto questo servizio di cibo, e abbiamo immaginato che se ogni pasto che viene servito alle Olimpiadi fosse messo su un vassoio, a questo punto avremmo ottenuto una torre che sarebbe circa alta 60 km, quindi 18 volte circa l'altezza della Tofana di Roses a Cortina. L'ultima flash che volevo dare è quello un po' sui trend social media. Mentre a Parigi, come sapete, c'era il muffin, qua nella nostra Milano-Cortina 2026 in realtà abbiamo più di un equivalente dei muffin. A Milano funziona molto il lava cake, che è una specie di cuore di cioccolato caldo che oltretutto appunto ha anche la forma del cuore, quindi si presta molto ad essere sui social, mentre a Livigno molti si focalizzano sul tiramisù, e a Predazzo assolutamente la pizza la fa da padrone, perché ci sono moltissime interazioni proprio sulla pizza, che viene addirittura fatta in diversi modi e in diversi colori.
Grazie Elisabetta. Mark, a te.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy to take any questions you want to ask me. So let's start with Carlos here from Reuters in the middle.
you very much, Mark. Carlos Groma from Reuters. The Ukrainian Olympic Committee has said they filed a request regarding the use of the helmet in competition. Have you reviewed that case? Is there a decision?
Thanks, Carlos. Yeah, I mean, we received that formal letter, formal request this morning to be able to wear that helmet in competition. What I'd say more generally, I'll get onto the specifics in a minute, what I'd say more generally is we have addressed from the beginning the situation of Ukrainian sports, Ukrainian athletes, since the Russian invasion. And the IOC fully understands the desire of athletes to remember friends, colleagues who've lost their lives in that conflict. And, by the way, in many, many other conflicts, many other difficult conflicts around the world. As we say, there are probably 20 to 30 different conflicts going on at any one time around the world. There was an informal meeting last night with Mr. Garasevich's coach and entourage, the delegation, and we understood, we reiterated our understanding of the athlete's wish to pay tribute to his fellow Ukrainian athletes, expressing his sorrow, which he's done during training and on social media. So he has, expressed his feeling in both those cases. But that having been said, the Olympic Charter, the conditions of participation, and the athletes' expression guidelines, which were, I think there was something like 3,000 or 4,000 athletes who fed back into those expression guidelines, and they were agreed also with the Athletes Commission. We have to concentrate on the athletes' performance and sport on the field of play. And it's fundamental that there are equal rights for all athletes, and that the games need to be separated, not just from political and religious, but from all types of interference, call it interference, and that, so that all the athletes competing can concentrate on their performance. What we've said is that this helmet contravenes the above-mentioned guidelines that I talked about earlier. But that being said, after the meeting, we also have reiterated once again that those guidelines, we will, in this case, as we do now more often, make an exception to the guidelines to allow him to wear a black armband during competition to make that commemoration. So I think what we've tried to do is to address his desires with compassion and understanding. He has expressed himself on social media and in the training, and as you know, we will not stop him expressing himself in press conferences as he leaves competition in the mixed zone and elsewhere. And we feel that this is a good compromise in the situation. He can wear, we've said to him that we will, of course, make an exception so that he can express his mourning in that way. And it is, on occasion, it is a situation that we have had with other issues, some personal, some not so personal, because obviously during the Games, you can imagine with more than 90 countries competing here and thousands of athletes, of 2,000 athletes plus, that there will be a whole range of issues that people want to commemorate, family members, wars, conflicts, and sadly, we live in that kind of world. But what we try to do at the Olympic Games is create a safe space for people to compete away from that, whilst also allowing people to express themselves. Yeah, over here, just here. Okay, just there then. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yes.
Philip Barker, just to follow up on that, how is this different? Last time in Paris, we had the break dancer with the 3 Afghan women, and she got disqualified. So why?
Because that's a slogan. So what we have said is that he can wear a black armband with no text, because as soon as we start getting into text, we start getting into issues of expression, and using the Olympic platform for expression. However much we may or may not sympathise with that expression, once we open the doors to that expression, it's difficult to stop the expression of one that we may not agree with. So it's a fine balance. Yes, gentleman, just here next to Ashley. Yeah.
Bonjour, merci Marc. Bruno Fraioli de sportbusiness.club. Je vais poser ma question en français. Je vais rebondir moi sur la restauration. Vous avez parlé des pâtes et des pizzas. Et, on est en Italie. Est-ce qu'il y a beaucoup plus de diversité de pâtes et de pizzas qu'on a pu avoir dans les autres jeux? Et est-ce que ce sont les produits les plus demandés? Généralement, c'est toujours quand même le hamburger qui est le plus mangé dans les restaurants des JO. Merci.
Grazie della domanda. Effettivamente pizza e pasta sono tra i piatti più serviti, ma proprio perché sono quelli in cui si crea maggior affollamento. Se c'è un posto in cui effettivamente si può creare un po' di coda, è proprio nella stazione dei carboidrati, però in ogni caso nei carboidrati è sempre presente del riso e ovviamente ci sono anche altre fonti tipo patate, focaccia che non è pizza, quindi come dire ci sono altre alternative, è una scelta spontanea che non è in ogni caso guidata da noi. Spero di aver risposto alla domanda.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. This is Takafumi Yoshida from Japanese news agency Kyodo News. I have a question to Luca. In figure skating team event, the skate blades of the athletes who finished on the podium ceremony were damaged, and the Japanese team protested to organizing committee. What caused this, and what countermeasures being considered for this?
Sì, buongiorno. Siamo stati informati e siamo al corrente di alcuni episodi legati ad alcuni residui che la superficie antiscivolo del podio ha lasciato su alcune lame dei pattini. Siamo immediatamente intervenuti, sostituiamo questa superficie, abbiamo peraltro offerto alle squadre il nostro servizio per affilare nuovamente i pattini e coordinato con l'ISU un extra time per l'allenamento, per cui siamo assolutamente consapevoli, siamo intervenuti immediatamente.
Hello? Let's switch it on. After about 7 Olympics, you finally learn how to work these things. Yeah. Mark, on the helmet issue, you mentioned there about slogans, and that seems to be, this whole issue sort of evolved. If you've got a slogan, you've got a problem. We've seen a lot more nuanced messaging, even from the IOC, which is, don't criticize the thing you're against, but state your positive principles. And you saw the Russian fans didn't bring a Russian flag, but brought an Olympic symbol, an Olympic mascot symbol. Everyone's getting a bit more nuanced and a bit cute and a bit clever about, which seems to be more challenging. Is the way that you're trying to allow people free expression as well, is this becoming more and more challenging, more nuanced, more complicated? Are you going to have to, will there be like an ongoing review after the games about what you allow? Is this getting to be really difficult?
I mean, people will always try to push rules to their limit. It's always very difficult with a rule that will work for everything. But, in terms of free speech, what I would say, just to reiterate, is that all the athletes are totally free to state their views on whatever issue on social media, in the mixed zone, in press conferences. Freedom of speech doesn't exist anywhere in the world. You know, you can't go into a crowded shopping centre and shout fire. You know, everyone knows that there are rules, and so our rule is that we have to protect the field of play. Yes, it's difficult, and there will always be people who try to, you know, not game the system, because we understand why they're doing it, but that's why we have to have a strict rule, and that's why the slogans are not allowed, the colours we will allow. And if you remember, and I think this is probably the background to your question, we have evolved with the athletes' guidelines. We have actually evolved because there were times in games past where we refused people even to wear a black armband, and people criticised us, and we listened to that, and we went to the athletes, and actually with those athlete expression guidelines, we did consult very closely with the athletes themselves to try to work out. And the athletes themselves are also very supportive of the fact that we need to keep that specific moment, the field of play, competition, we need to keep that as pure as we can for the competition, and people can express themselves however they want to elsewhere. Yeah, FAZ.
Christoph Becker from Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. Thanks, Mark. Well, following up, surprisingly, on that issue, could you explain? As I understand from your explanation, he wouldn't. Vladislav Veraskovic would not be allowed to either wear the helmet in competition or during the medal ceremony, right? Because that's considered field of play as well. So, where is the difference with this helmet from the example that he cited on his Instagram reel? Matthias Steiner in 2008 showed a photo of his deceased wife. Where does this differ? Is it? No, let me just please finish the question. Is this differing because we are on his helmet are comrades, soldiers, fellow athletes who died in a war, in a conflict, and Matthias Steiner's wife died sadly far too early, but not in a war? Is this the difference, or was what Steiner did not allowed, but nobody stopped him from doing it?
I think it's a very simple case. I mean, one I'd say is the famous quote that the past is another country, and you know, this is 20 years ago. We've actually evolved the rules. We do listen. People often criticize us for not listening. We listen to people, to the athletes particularly, and we try to come up with a set of rules. There will always be different explanations and exceptions and so on, but we have rules now that we try to enforce now, which are new rules, and we think that they're a good expression. I'm not really going to go back 20 years ago and discuss whether that would be okay now. It was okay at the time, it was allowed. We have a set of rules that we agreed with the athletes, which seem to be working. And of course, you know, there'll always be, you know, growing pains and whatever with rules. That's the way they are. But we think we've settled on what is a good system to allow people to express themselves, but to also keep and protect the field of play. It won't be perfect, and there will always be exceptions. Yeah, Tarek, another exception, I expect.
Just changing gear a little bit here, Mark. Talking to some of the figure skaters with this music, they come from different places with different budgets. Some of them can afford quite expensive royalties, and the others have to change their music. Talking to a coach of one of the teams, you know, they were saying the IOC is a very wealthy organization. Could they not pitch in for the music for these athletes? Because a lot of them have had to change because they can't afford the royalties. They're not wealthy people. Is there a world where the IOC chips in for that type of thing? And if so, how? If not, why not? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, to give you kind of the broader answer, which you will roll your eyes at, you know, we already put back an awful lot of money, 90%, $4.7 million a day we give back to the sporting movement. Scholarships here, there are, I think off the top of my head, there's something like several hundred scholarships. So we pay people to compete. We understand that the level, that the playing field is not totally level. And we try our best, we are trying our best to continually find ways to do that. On this specific issue, I won't say whether we will or will not look into it, but obviously it needs to be consistent, because there are many different ideas of how we can help all of the athletes here to compete on a more level playing field. That may be one idea. I would suggest it's probably not the best idea with the resources we have to try and level the playing field, but it could be something that would be considered if it's looked at formally. I hope that kind of answers your question. Yeah, Wakako. And then we'll come back to Rachel over here.
Thank you. Wakako Yuki from Yomiuri Shimbun. One question to Mark and one question to Luca. Regarding this Ukrainian issue, do I understand that this black armband, the compromise, can be extended to other Ukrainian or other actually nationalities, athletes as well, that IOC would be able to permit these expression of sorrow? And Luca, regarding the medal, could you kindly tell us, confirm us, how many cases being reported so far and what are the conditions and possibly what could be the cause of it? Thank you.
So I'll go first. Actually, I just was finding out, just so you know, we had nearly 449 athletes who benefited from Olympic Solidarity Scholarships. And by the way, these aren't little amounts. I think it's something like 1,500 a month. So we are trying and helping with those countries and NOCs and athletes that have less ability to get them there. Obviously, in the summer, it's a lot more than that. And now I've actually managed to forget what your question was about to me, Wakako. Just remind me. Yeah. So the principle is that there are rules which are understood by all the NOCs and all the delegations. People can make a request for an exemption to the rule, as the Ukrainian NOC has done here, and we have a panel which looks at that. But certainly we have had a black armband, and there has to be a good specific reason, because you can imagine, as I said, with 90 countries and 2,800 athletes, we don't want everyone wearing a black armband for every competition, but where there's a good reasoning, it will be considered properly. Yeah, and the second question was for Luca, yeah?
Allora, stiamo ovviamente parlando di un numero molto limitato. Ti raccolgo il numero preciso e te lo comunichiamo, non ce l'ho al momento, ma è importante sottolineare che precauzionalmente comunque stiamo ricontrollando tutte le medaglie in maniera tale da preservare in qualche modo la gioia che gli atleti devono vivere a pieno nel momento in cui conquistano qualcosa di così prezioso e di così importante per loro, ma mi sento di dire anche per noi che facciamo il tifo. Grazie.
Okay, Rachel's been waiting a very long time, so Rachel, yeah.
Good morning, thanks Mark. I will ask my question in French, if you don't mind. Le directeur général des Alpes 2030 est sur le départ. Il était hier dans la salle, Cyril Linette, pour ne pas le citer. Est-ce que vous êtes au courant et est-ce que vous voulez réagir? Est-ce que la situation à la tête du comité d'organisation des futurs Jeux d'hiver vous inquiète? Merci beaucoup.
Merci, je vais répondre en anglais parce que c'est peut-être mieux pour tout le monde, même moi. I have heard rumors, but I have no confirmation, and I wouldn't want to comment on speculation. So there is I've had no confirmation, no direct news as far as I know. So I won't take it any further at this stage. Yeah, Robert in the center here.
Thanks, Mark. Rob Livingstone, Gainsmiths.com. Question for Luca. We're 4 days in now. From an organizational perspective, can you identify any area that maybe exceeded your expectations as far as the success of what it is? And then maybe something else that hasn't gone so well and maybe needs some improvement or has disappointed you in some way?
Allora, di base credo che ci sia sempre la possibilità di migliorare e di migliorarsi. Partiamo però da un dato di grandissima soddisfazione. Il comitato organizzatore nasce, lavora per deliberare i giochi e quindi in un qualche modo li scopre a sua volta, no? I giochi quando iniziano ad arrivare. Quello che noi abbiamo scoperto in questi primi 4 giorni è qualcosa di davvero entusiasmante, nel senso che gli stadi e le competizioni sono spesso sold out, come vi diceva ieri Andrea Francisi, le fan zone e i live sites sono piene di gente che è festosa, che ha voglia di vivere l'atmosfera dei giochi, quindi in generale non possiamo che essere soddisfatti, anche perché poi i feedback che arrivano dai protagonisti veri che sono gli atleti in questo momento sono davvero estremamente positivi. Credo che anche il CIO stesso ne sia testimonianza. Grazie.
At the back with the camera. From Canada, I think. I can see a flag.
Thank you very much. Just change gears for a second. I have a question about event scheduling. We've heard from some athletes that they're struggling with the start times. Some of the events are starting quite late, 9, 10 o'clock on Saturday, I believe, for the men's portion of the team event from figure skating. Why are things starting so late? It's different from what the athletes are used to back home at the respective events. Is this the right way to encourage, athletic excellence if things are starting 9, 10 o'clock?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually a perennial question at all the games, and obviously the answer is that these games are shown right around the world. Everyone wants to see an event live. It's impossible for it to be live for everyone at the same time, but we try to place it so that it can be seen by as many people as possible at certain times. So the scheduling is, I guess, different from what you'd have certainly with domestic competition. But I mean, most of the athletes are used to that kind of change, and in the end it works for spreading the message and spreading Olympism and people to enjoy the excitement of the sport around the world. So we would say it's something that is worth doing and worth considering. Luca, you have anything to add, or you?
No, sono assolutamente d'accordo, Mark.
Okay. Okay, I think, oh yeah, we know we've got a question from our spread out games, yes, from the mountains. Can we have a microphone here?
Yeah, 2 questions have come in from the mountains. The first is from Brian Mann, asking for a bit more detail on drones in particular, and whether you can give an overview of the training for drone operators, and if there's been a dialogue with athletes about the presence of drones during the competition, and also have there been any incidents of unauthorized drones at Olympic venues?
Yeah, I'm surprisingly not a drone expert, but as you will remember, the sports director addressed this on the 9th of February. I won't read out the comments are there already, but we obviously it didn't just come out of the blue. We've been working on it. We will have the head of OBS, the head of Olympic Broadcasting Services, will be here on the 18th. So go back to the press conference and see the response from the sports director, but actually if you want to talk about the technicalities, it's probably better not getting a guess from me, but getting the actual, the real detail from Yanis Exarchos, who will be here on the 18th.
And then Tracy Holmes from the Sports Ambassador says that the UN calls on nations around the world to observe the Olympic truce during the Games. Are athletes asked to do the same in the spirit of peace?
The truce, interesting question. The truce is called for at the United Nations, and it's between member states, approved by member states of the United Nations. The athletes have different responsibilities, and they understand, obviously, that as we said in the opening ceremony, that the Olympic Games is about peaceful competition, that people can share their meals but compete fiercely against each other. But I don't think the Olympic truce specifically is aimed so much at the athletes, but obviously the spirit of it would be. Okay, I think that's probably it. Yep, we'll come back tomorrow, same time. Thank you very much to our guest, and we'll see you all tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Thank you.